Good morning, afternoon, evening, depending with where you're watching me from. Welcome back to my channel and I'm glad to have you here. Let's get into today's video. Now in this video, an Asian lady tells people in her video that black people are not the only ones that experience slavery. Now she goes on to say that it doesn't matter whether you're black, white, whatever race you are. It's likely at some point your ancestry down the line owned or were slaves. Here's her video.
Hi, hello. This is going to be shocking for many of you to hear, but did you know that black people are not the only race to have historically experienced slavery? I know this is shocking, but pretty much every civilization in the history of mankind, at some point their ancestry owned slaves. Because slavery was a worldwide human rights issue for a very, very long time, for many centuries. So it doesn't matter if you're white, black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever. Very likely at some point your ancestry down the line owned slaves. Doesn't make it right, but that was just the way of the world for a very, very long time. So all these comments like, you're not black, you can't speak about slavery. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. Slavery was a human rights issue across the world, across all races and all civilizations for a long time. And the United States was one of the first countries to abolish it very quickly and efficiently. So all the comments about being a non-black person, you can't speak about slavery, every single civilization has experienced slavery at some point.
Now, the reason why people are dragging her is because of how she's saying it. Like, we all know that, but she's making it sound or seem like we complain too much about slavery and bring it up at any slightest chance we get. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but that's just what this video is giving. It's giving me that. But if we look at it, black people are the ones who experienced it more harshly. But she is making it look like we talk or complain too much about being enslaved. Now, did people stitch this video? Of course they did, and they have called her out. So for now, let's get into the stitches and hear what people had to say about her video.
Experienced slavery.
It is so bizarre to me how the Asian American community does this.
Oh, before any of you guys come at me, I'm just as Asian as she is.
I have seen this with non-black people of color, specifically in the Asian community, where they equate their experience with the black experience when they're just not even comparable. To say that you can speak on slavery because it has happened everywhere, even though you are living in the United States. When the anatomy of government, the Constitution, was all synthesized during an era when the economy depended upon slavery, specifically of black people, language like this is just so unbelievably harmful. I'm not saying that we didn't struggle, but to play this weird game of oppression Olympics when we immigrated more recently, where the building blocks of this country did not incorporate us or take us into consideration and were essentially built upon the downfall of one specific community, you're weird for that. You're weird for that.
Non-black person, you can't speak about slavery. Every single civilization has experienced slavery.
And that's where you're incorrect and show that you are unqualified to speak about this topic. Every single civilization did not experience slavery the same way that black people experienced slavery, because chattel slavery was very different from slavery in other places. And you talk about the U.S. being the first to efficiently and effectively abolish slavery, while they have a clause in the 13th Amendment that says that slavery is abolished with the exception of mass incarceration, when we have black people who are massively incarcerated at higher rates than most groups in this country. I'm going to need you to learn how to make inferences. Now, as you mentioned in your video, that people are calling you out because you're not qualified to speak on this topic. You aren't. And I'm going to need you to read some books on Black American history before you decide that you're going to try to chastise black people for calling you out about things that you know nothing about. Have a good day.
At some point.
So what? Every civilization on Earth has figured out how to make bread from wheat, and it doesn't mean that I'm knowledgeable enough about it to speak on it. And I get this thing that you're doing, Gina. You say incendiary shit online to try and build a platform to be the second coming of your former boss, Candace Owens, aka the woman of color who tries to speak on everyone's experience in that group, but it's not gonna happen. There's only room on the internet for one of you, and it's not you, Gina. Gina, oppression and trauma are not competitions. You don't have to put down other people's experiences or try to speak on their behalf just to validate your own. You and I as Asian Americans, I actually don't know what you are through all of that makeup, but as Asian people, we should be seeking solidarity with our black and brown brothers and sisters and not seeking validation and proximity to white people who will never face the same oppressions as we do.
Have historically experienced slavery.
So now everybody wants to be oppressed now? Really? There is no comparison to the transatlantic slavery that happened to Africans. Stop that shit. African folks lost their land, their language, their spirituality, their families, their name. And when they got to the States, they were told they were what, 3/5 human? This same group of people didn't even get a chance to vote in this country until what, 1960 something? There's no damn comparison. Stop that shit. Let's not forget about Jim Crow and segregation that's affected these group of people still to this day. Still to this day, family. I'm tired of that. I was oppressed too. Bullshit.
And efficiently.
Hi, I'm a journalist. I actually just wrote an article about Asian slavery for Pop Sugar if you guys want to go give that a read. But I wanted to respond to this because this is not true. A lot of what she's saying is problematic and not true. But the main thing is like the US did not know. They were the only country in the Americas to free themselves and maintain slavery. Slavery was abolished all over Latin America first, and the first country to abolish slavery and to win against the Spanish was Venezuela. And we cannot forget Haiti's role in all of this. They were the catalyst, they put the support. Haiti was the first colony to free themselves and be completely run by the people who had freed themselves. So yeah, know some history before you make claims like this, yo.
At some point.
I'm going to tell you why that argument is complete horseshit. So if you don't know what this is in reference to, she made a video on like a podcast where she's like, abortion is worse than slavery. It's the worst thing that's ever happened on American soil. Pretty stupid. And a lot of people, for good reason, were pretty not cool with it because they were like, hey dude, you can't talk about that because you're not black, right? And then she did the conservative party trick where she pulls the All Lives Matter card and goes, you know, like, black people weren't the only slaves? You know, the whole argument that goes, other people have had to deal, which historically, yeah, black people aren't the only race that's been enslaved. But within the context of the conversation you were having, that's the only kind of slavery you were referencing. And if you want to argue that abortion is worse than all slavery, that's an even worse argument.
So many non-black people of color who just hate black people with a passion because they think that white people are going to see them as equal. It doesn't work. Every time I see people who are Asian, Native American, Hispanic, and they come here and they're like, oh, but at least we're not black. And then white people treat them like absolute garbage. They're shocked. What did we do to everyone else? What did black people do? Please tell me a point in history that we just somehow went against everybody else and made their lives living hell. Tell me right now.
Hey girly, that's not what you said is like historically true, but the context that you're saying it is giving a false reality. So let's clear some things up. One, this is in reaction to a comment that you made in a podcast where you said American soil. I quote that. You said that abortion is the worst human rights atrocity to happen on American soil. Even if you believe that abortion is the biggest violation of human rights, I don't care. It's not the biggest violation of human rights to happen on American soil. You can't just bring up the context of the entire world in talking about this issue in America, because I know that you know that slavery in the context of this conversation is referring to American slavery. You are being purposefully ignorant in this context. And I know a lot of you guys like to be purposefully ignorant, but I'm not gonna let that slide. Also, in this video, you said that it was abolished quickly and efficiently. 400 years is not quickly, and going through an entire war for states' rights to keep slaves is not efficient either. Never mind that we still actively employ slavery to this day with the jail system. So I don't know about quickly or efficiently. It only seems quickly and efficient to your context because America wasn't that old of a nation as an individual nation at the time. But no, that's not true. I don't know how you choose to be purposefully ignorant to the issues that you're talking about, but it's not making a great case for you. You know, some of us might be more willing to hear out your anti-argument if you guys would stop bringing up really stupid arguments to defend yourself. How are you going to bring slavery and black people into this argument that has nothing to do with slavery or black people? This isn't the first time that I've heard this argument that abortion than slavery. If your argument that abortion is worse than slavery is because abortion kills babies, what the hell was slavery? Just answer me that. Tell me what the hell happened during slavery, because I assure you that it was more than just people.
We do know that. It's not that shocking. In fact, we never said that. We never said that we were the only ones. We know. But this may be shocking to you. Did you not know that not only were slaves R-worded, men, women, and children R-worded, eaten, like food, eaten, and made to get abortions? Did you know that is where hysterectomies came from? Experimenting on black women without medication, without medicine, like straight up going through whole surgeries, painful surgeries, without anything, because we were not seen as people. Which is why you could be so comfortable saying some of the things that you're saying, because America, because you said American soil, on American soil, those in and out of American soil have been able to humanize black people and not see us as people. So no, we didn't say we were the only people that have ever experienced slavery, but historically in America and outside of America, because we were not just stopped here, we were dropped several other places, have been demonized on a level haven't really seen with any other race.
Slavery is regarded as the most extreme form of dependency, exploitation, and domination in which individuals were bought and sold and were legally subject to complete control in decisions of where to live and work. Now, it is the most clear-cut form of domination dependent on the controls of the state or cartel of the elite, and that's probably the easiest type of coerced arrangement to end legally. Slavery has been an exceptionally pervasive institution until very recently, existing in almost all societies in the past as well as in almost all parts of the world. Now, we all know this, but someone of another race wanting to talk about how black people should react when it comes to something that has affected its community and still is affecting the community for a long time, now is sounding crazy. When we look at the Atlantic slave trade from Africa to the New World, which might well have been the largest maritime migration in history, in total about 12 million Africans were forcibly embarked. And because of the high mortality abroad, about 10 million slaves were disembarked in Brazil, the British, French, Dutch, Caribbean, Spanish America, and North America. Now, the expansion of Europe after 1500s could not have succeeded without slaves, as Europeans refused to migrate in sufficient numbers to the tropics. Now, this is why the European colonizers in Africa and Asia bought local slaves. In the tropical parts of the New World, however, the supply of local slaves was insufficient, especially since it was the main region where the colonizing nations were able to produce tropical export crops such as sugar and coffee. Now, the increasing demand for these products in Europe stimulated a large number of European shipping companies to buy slaves in the Atlantic shores of Africa, to ferry them across the Atlantic and sell them to slave owners in the New World. Now, the transatlantic slave trade also, which is a segment of the global ST that transported between 10 million and 12 million enslaved Africans across the Atlantic Ocean to the Americas from the 16th to 19th century. Now, it was the second of the three stages of the so-called triangular trade, in which Arms, textiles, and wine were shipped from Europe to Africa, enslaved people from Africa to the Americas, and sugar and coffee from the Americas to Europe. Let's now have a look at how different people reacted in the comments. The first comment reads, Black people were enslaved 400 plus years and then lived through Jim Crow society for another 100 plus years. Stop comparing us to you all. You don't know nothing. This is the equivalent of America and saying Africa has it worse. Yes, everyone has been slaves, but only Black people were slaves in USA. The only difference is that slavery in America was R to the cyst, but everywhere else it was classist. Now it's becoming the Operation Olympics. Why would anyone want to be oppressed? The narrative is basically they want you to be quiet and ignore your suffrage. Never will be a comparison. She definitely didn't need to say anything. Now, there were also people who were saying that other races went through this as well, so it's so unfair to act as if only Black people are the only ones who went through this. So what do you, my viewers, have to say about all this? Kindly share your thoughts in the comment section. From me, bye-bye, and see you in my next video. Let's get talking.